Hey friend, Jen here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today I'm going to walk you through a lower body hip and back stretching mobility routine. Now in my own life, I've been dealing with a little bit of a tweaked hamstring, some tight hip flexors, so I thought that there might be other people that would benefit from some kind of routine to help alleviate some of those areas. We're going to be focusing exclusively kind of from knee to about mid-torso. In between there, trying to loosen up that area, increase some flexibility and some mobility. If you find that you're sitting a lot at your job, or if you're not moving a ton throughout the day, you might find that you get some low back pain, that your hips get quite tight. This is a great routine to help alleviate some of that and to just keep things loose. So I encourage you, you can do this a couple times a week or when you really notice things are quite tight. I'm not going to talk a ton today. We're just going to get right to it. We're going to take this nice and slow. It'll be a little bit more relaxed than normal, but hopefully by the end of it, you'll be feeling really good. One thing to touch on before we begin, you don't necessarily need shoes. I'm just in my socks today. If you want water close by, all good. I'm also going to link a playlist that's quite relaxing just to kind of help facilitate this time of, relaxing and loosening up. So please, if you want to take advantage of that, by all means. But we are going to start on the ground here. We are going to start in a butterfly stretch. So feet are going to come together as best you can in that open position through the groin. And we're just going to stay here for a full minute, okay? Now you can grab onto the feet, you can grab onto the ankles, you can grab onto the knees. Whatever feels comfortable for you today, I just want to encourage you to listen to your body, to take it slow. Do not push yourself past what feels comfortable. This is just meant to increase some movement and help encourage a little bit of lengthening to those areas that are really quite tight for us. Now you can do one side at a time if you want. Got about 5 more seconds. Good. Come out of that nice and easy. We are going to flip onto our back. Legs are going to come nice and straight. Starting our timer. Back on our backs, bringing up one knee. Big hug here. This is all you're going to do. Hold for a full minute on this side and then a full minute on the other side. Now, if your hips are quite tight, you might want to play around with what feels good. Slightly wider. Do you feel a little bit of a deeper stretch? Across the front. Let's not twist all the way over here because that's coming. So we're just trying to stay either forward or slightly to the side. Really focusing on your breath here. This is meant to be kind of a wind down, loosen you up. Got about 15 seconds, and then we're switching sides. Good. And when you're ready, switch sides. Take it nice and slow. After a period of time where your hip is contracted, it might feel a little tight, so we just want to be slow with that. One side might feel tighter than the other, and that's okay. Almost there. We're going to stay on our backs for the next one. We're going to drop the leg, starting on the opposite side again. You're going to bring the knee up, foot up, flex the foot. Now, if you can't completely straighten your knee here, or if you can't even get that far, that's okay. You can always, grab, I've used before like a house coat rope if you want to support your leg, or some kind of band. Depending on where your mobility is there, we should be feeling the stretch along the back of the hamstring. And the more you flex that foot, the more you will feel it across the back of the leg. So just be mindful. You are responsible for the intensity today. You do not need to go crazy. It should feel like a good stretch, not a painful stretch. Good. Let's switch sides. Bring that leg down nice and gentle. Opposite leg. Again, we don't need to be pulling aggressively here. Just nice and gentle, holding that leg in place. You can also just let your hands rest if you want as well. You can feel that foot out a little bit more. I know when I flex mine, I feel it a lot more in my calf. So just being mindful, we're getting a good stretch across the entire back of the leg. All right, let's let that leg come down just a little bit here. We are going to switch gears, starting back at that first leg again. I mentioned we were going to do this. Knee comes up. We are now bringing it across, okay? Back leg, or the leg that's straight, should stay relatively straight. We're not twisting the hips all that much. We're trying to stay fairly square, bringing that leg across, assisting through the hand. Should feel a nice stretch across the glute, maybe a bit of the hamstring, and even into that lower back. Keep it up, you're doing good. Should already start to maybe feel a little bit of this loosening up. Loosening up. And let's go ahead, bring it back to the center. Core nice and tight, support our back. I gotta scooch over here a little bit. We're gonna do the other side. Knee comes up, bringing it across. You can put the hand out if you want to support yourself, or it might be fine here, but we want to keep in mind that those hips are straight. Should feel a nice stretch across the glute, and you can play around a bit if you feel it, more or less with the knee higher or lower. You want it somewhere in between. Keep it up. Good. Bringing it back to the center. Nice and gentle. Get yourself up, whatever way feels comfortable, lying to that side, pushing up. We are going to continue with a glute stretch, but we are going to do it now from a seated position. So we're going to cross one leg just above the knee. Hands are going to support us on the back, and we are going to bring the foot up. Now, this can feel like a more intense glute stretch, so you're kind of in control of how intense you want it to be. The further up you bring your knee, the more intense you will feel it. So you can always adjust as needed. Chest nice and upright. This should feel like a good stretch across the glute. Arms can support. They can be moved around. Listen to what your body is telling you in this moment. Good. Straighten that leg out nice and gentle. Give the legs a couple shakes if need be. We are switching sides now. Bringing that leg up to just above the knee. Bringing the opposite leg up, stretching out that glute. Now, if your mobility is just so limited that you can always come to this position, nice and open, or you can stay back on your back like we did with the previous stretch of where you're letting gravity, pull that glute down from your back from a lying position. Pull that glute down from your back from a lying position. Keep it up. We got about 10 seconds here. Breathing through that tension, making sure that it's not too intense. Good. Bringing that leg down, shaking it out. We're going to come to a seated position with legs slightly out. We are going to do some windshield wipers with our hips. So legs are going to be fairly out, slightly wider with the hips. Hands can be behind to support. You're going to drop both the knees to one side. Bring them up, drop to the other side. We're just going to do this a few times. And we want to make sure that we're staying nice and 90. So if you need to adjust, do so. We want to be 90 with the front hip, 90 with the back hip. And you might find that this feels quite tight. So that's where your hands are there to support you. Now, as you do a few more, I want you to start thinking about leaning a little bit forward into that front leg. We'll feel this stretch a little bit more across the glute. Okay, those arms can assist you, bringing it to the center. Keep it going just a few more times. Good, now bringing it back to center. We're going to drop to one side, and you should notice hips are a little bit looser, or hopefully a bit looser here. And all I want you to do is just lie back for just a few seconds here. We'll do about a minute aside of where we're really trying to be 90 and 90 with both the legs, squaring our shoulders, squaring our hips so that we can get a more intense stretch through the one side. Now, if this feels really uncomfortable, the less square you are, the less you'll feel that. So just adjust the angle if need be. Core nice and tight for this. Now, once you're familiar with this stretching routine, you can always do it in front of the TV or something while you're winding down. And having that little bit of a distraction can sometimes allow you to get a little bit deeper into some of these stretches. Got about 10 seconds here, and then we're going to switch and do the opposite side. And switch sides. Coming out of that nice and slow, you might feel that it's a little intense. So just take your time here. Getting back into that position on the opposite side, squaring that hip as much as needed and as much as makes sense for you. You might notice one side is tighter than the other, and that's okay. Keep it up. We got about 30 seconds here. Keep going. You got this. Play with that angle a little bit more as you notice yourself kind of loosening up a bit more. All right, now we're going to just build on this slightly. So coming nice and gently back to that starting position, we are going to drop one leg. We can actually drop both, but we're going to focus on one leg. So we're going to bring the outside leg up and down just a couple times. Breathing slowly as we do this, focusing on relaxing into that motion a bit. If this is quite tight, just be gentle. Make the range of motion smaller if need be. All right, bringing it back up to center. Let's switch and do the other side. And then we're going to move on. You might notice that one is much easier than the other. I know the one hip that I'm kind of dealing with a little bit is significantly tighter, so I'm just being gentle there. All right, come back to center. Bring those knees in. We're going to flip over onto our front facing. We're going to bring one knee forward, doing a hip flexor stretch. So 90 and 90 with both knees. We're going to bring that front forward just a little bit more, pushing into that front knee, making sure that that knee is not extending beyond the ankle, keeping core tight, opening up through that hip. If you need to take it back a notch, you always can. This should feel like a nice stretch across the front of the leg. Good. Now we're going to shift those hips back slightly, and we're going to straighten that leg. Now keep in mind, this is not, maybe this is as straight as you can straighten your leg, and that's fine. I'm being mindful here of my hip flexors, so I'm not doing the full range of motion that I might normally do, but we want leg to be nice and straight, or as straight as we can. Back fairly flat, reaching forward, should be feeling a nice stretch through that hamstring. Again, we want to make sure that it's not painful, and it's more just a stretch. Okay. Moving back into that hip flexor stretch, coming nice and upright. If we need to adjust the foot, we can. Core nice and tight as we do this. Good. When we feel a bit of a release, let's go ahead and switch sides, bringing that leg back nice and gently. Front leg coming up fairly far, pressing in to the hamstring, or into the hip flexor, my apologies. Nice and gentle here. If you need the support of, the wall, the floor, a block, whatever you need, feel free to take that. Pulling back into that hamstring. Back comes nice and flat. Leg is straight, or as straight as makes sense for you. Feeling a nice stretch across the back of that hamstring. And again, if this is too intense, you can always, have a chair or something that supports you a little bit more. Good, bending into that hip flexor again for just a few seconds. Good job, keep it up. Bringing that back knee back, we're going to come to the other side again, similar, but this time we want to be a little bit more 90 and 90, so the front leg might not come as far. We're going to bring the back leg behind a little bit, so find that nice stretch stance. We are going to open up. Should feel a nice stretch here with the hand planted. Palm comes down. We lift up the leg. That's one rep, Okay, we are going to aim here for 5 per side. This is 2, back leg comes straight, should feel a stretch across the hip flexor. A little bit of a rotation. Doing good, keep it up. Just take this at your pace. Last one on this side, and then we'll switch sides. Good. Bringing that leg behind, coming up as much as it makes sense for you. Opposite leg. So finding that sweet spot where we are getting a little bit of a stretch, maybe not as intense as before, but that allows us to put both hands on the ground or as best we can, rotating up, hand comes down, foot pops up. Core nice and tight as we do this. Good. Bring it back down. Bringing that leg back. Shaking it out just a little bit. We're going to come back to a seated position. Moving into a little bit more of our lower back now. So see, you can either be, there's 2 variations here. You can either be in a seated position or you can be back in that butterfly position. Figure out what makes sense for you. You're going to bring one hand up overhead, the other hand supporting, reaching over to the side. Should feel this all the way down the side of your body into that lower back. Now this hand can support you a little bit. So if you want to go all the way, you can, but we want to make sure that our hips aren't lifting as we do that. So you're going to do a few seconds to the side, then you're going to rotate forward using that hand to assist you. You're going to come off to the angle. Should feel a little bit deeper across your back. Then we're going to come back up to the side. Again, across to the front. Should feel a little bit of a stretch there. Nice and gentle. Find the sweet spot for yourself where you know you're getting a good stretch. Press that hip down, reaching with the opposite hand. Opening up to the side, reaching up. We are now going to switch sides. Hand comes up, over to the side. Get a good stretch here. Chest comes open. Reaching down on the angle. Oh, that feels good. Reaching to the side. Opening up to the side again. Opening up to the front. The stretch feels so good, I think I could do it 1,000 times. We're just going to do it 2 times per second. If you want to spend some more time there, feel free to pause here because this is a great stretch just for getting into that lower back. Moving on, we are going to move into our second last stretch for the day. You're going to come to a 4-point kneeling position. Now, knees can be either wide or a little bit more narrow. We're going to drop one hand, threading the needle through. Bum stays fairly high. Reaching under that arm. Should feel a nice stretch across the shoulder and into the back. If you want to, you can sit back, but I find to get a little bit more of a shoulder stretch with butt up. And you can use that hand to support a little bit more rotation. Probably look like an absolute pretzel on camera right now. That's okay. That's kind of what we're doing here. All right, bringing it back to that 4-point kneeling position, switching sides. Rotating underneath, hand is supporting, thumb is high. Good. Oh, this feels so nice. Bringing it back to that 4-point kneeling. Got one last stretch here. Legs are going to come nice and wide. Hips back. Child's pose. Okay, feel free to spend some time here. Enjoy your tunes. Feel that lower back just loosen up. Enjoy this quiet for a moment. All right. Move those fingers a little bit. Bring yourself back up to that 4-point kneeling. Now, any of these stretches that you enjoyed, feel free to repeat them, do them often, do them for as long as needed. Those are the stretches I had for today. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Is your back feeling a little looser? Your hips feeling a little lighter? I sure hope so. Please let me know. I would love to hear how this went for you, and if you'd like anything similar to this in my next video. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.